What's up, guys? Welcome to the United Stand and some very, very exciting, well, depends how you look at it, but some big news coming out this afternoon regarding a contract extension for none other than Eric Bailly. Now, this is a really interesting one. We'll get into the details of the contract. We'll get into some quotes by Eric Bailly himself as well, because he's been speaking about it as well. We'll also talk about what does this actually mean? What does this mean in terms of transfer targets? What does this mean in terms of potentially Glazers, in terms of spin? We'll talk about a lot of things. We're probably going to have Flex jump in as well at some point as well. So there's really a lot to talk about when it comes to Eric Bailly and this contract extension. So first of all, it's a 3-year contract extension until June 2024. Now, initially, his contract was set to expire this summer. And what was interesting about this, and we'll get into the quotes on the screen, we'll get into some of the live chats as well. Be sure to smash a like on the video too. You can subscribe bottom right-hand corner as well. So what I do want to touch on first is what does this all mean? What does this all mean? Now, first of all, we'll look at the quotes on the screen because there's some quotes on the screen right now. So this is what he's had to say, he being Eric Bailly. He said, quote, "I'm very happy. This decision is something I didn't have to think about." Interesting. Keep that in mind. He said, "I love this club and I love playing for Manchester United. I'm happy and so are my family. Everything is good. Now the moment with my injuries has passed, debatable, and I'm fit and feel good. And that's it. A new contract is like a new challenge and I'm ready for this." Now it's really interesting that he mentioned the injuries there, because that's really the point of contention here when it comes to Eric Bailly. I don't think anyone, and you can let me know about this in the live comments, we'll be sure to read those out. No one's really going to contest Eric Bailly's quality. I think most people would say they like Eric Bailly, they like the quality, they like the tenacity that he brings to Manchester United. I think a lot of people would say actually he might be the preferred centre-back partnership with Harry Maguire over Victor Lindelof, over Magaluf, whatever you want to call him. The issue is, in terms of Eric Bailly, it's always going to be the injury record, right? It's always going to be the injury record. And we've got a couple of super chats coming in straight away, so I'll get to these first. Zayn Miasi says 10 million plus Rob Holding for Bailly. Ollie's wasting him. Interesting from Zayn. Also, Robert Beard says, or Baird, is that how you pronounce that? I'm not very good at names. How global fans help bring down the Glazers, and how do we sign the petition? So I believe he's referencing a petition that Mark tweeted out. So you can go to his Twitter. Be sure to click that. Once it gets to, I think it's 100,000 signatures, they have to discuss it in Parliament. And that regards, obviously, the Glazer ownership, the 50+1 ruling. So if you want to get involved in that, go onto Mark's Twitter. Be sure to sign that up. Going back to Eric Bailly, though, I mentioned the injuries. That's the key. That's the key situation there, because what I find fascinating about Eric Bailly, and what I find fascinating about this, is it was only what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we started to hear those rumors and rumblings. Eric Bailly wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with the lack of playing time that he was receiving. You know, if it's a big level match, Sir Alex Ferguson's been talking about players in big level matches, referencing Scott McTominay recently. But when you talk about players in big matches, who are the first two names on the team sheet? And if it's the two centre backs, it's going to be Harry Maguire, it's going to be Victor Lindelof. Now, a lot of people would say, well, Harry Maguire and Eric Bailly, that should be the first two. It's becoming plainly obvious, and it's been obvious for a while now at this point, that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does not, he doesn't trust Eric Bailly's fitness record, and he's justified. I think he's justified in that. Eric Bailly, since he's signed for Manchester United, he's been out injured for over 500 days. That's nearly 18 months. It's nearly a year and a half of his initial 5-year contract. He's been out injured. If that's the case, do you blame Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Do you blame him for not trusting his injury record? No. Now, Eric Bailly had different contrasting opinions about that, according to reports recently, stating that he felt that he should be starting, and I think fans would agree with that, but it's the injuries. That's the injury problem. So it kind of felt like a situation after a while, seeing these initial reports before he signed this contract, seeing these initial reports, it felt like, wow, we're probably in the market for a centre-back, talking about the likes of Rafael Varane and all that kind of stuff. It felt like eventually we would probably get a centre-back and Eric Bailly would go. Once you start hearing reports of, well, his contract's expiring, once you start hearing reports of he's unhappy, it leads to one direction, doesn't it? And I'm not talking about the band. I'm talking about him actually leaving, Eric Bailly. So this does feel a little bit like a U-turn. And the moment that this came out this morning, because we've just had the official announcement a couple of minutes ago, and there's another quote on screen here. This is when he says about the new contract and the new challenge. He says, quote, "That's why I say the new contract shows the group has confidence in me, the coach, the staff, and the players. And for me, that's very important. That's why I made the decision to stay at the club." interesting. We'll touch on that in a second. Certainly interesting about having the coach having confidence in him. I think the coach probably does have confidence in him. He doesn't have confidence in his ability to stay fit, in his ability to stay healthy on the pitch. That's always been the problem. Now, what I do want to touch on when it comes to this, because this has really been, I think, people's main point of contention here, is that what does this mean for the summer? What does this mean for the summer? Because we've spoken about transfer plans. We've heard reports recently. Rafael Varane, Man United, we've got a clear direction. We've got a clear direction. There's no competition. We're going after Rafael Varane. That's what we've heard recently, right? This might say otherwise, and I think that's concerning. We've heard the rumblings recently, especially since the whole Super League debacle and fiasco, especially since we've been talking about summer plans and Ed Woodward leaving and a restructuring at the club. We've spoken about what does this mean in terms of summer plans. This might mean we don't have a lot going on in the summer plans. This screams to me spin by the Glazers. What happens when there's a lot of negativity, when there's a lot of bad news? Bring in good news. Let's have some good news. Eric Bailly signed a new contract, 3 extra years. Everyone's happy. Take the attention off. A smokescreen, if you will. That's one point to look at there. Another thing you could look at it as is they've realized that might be the cheaper alternative. You could go out and buy Rafael Varane. I think the price quoted was something like 60 million. I don't know if that was euros or pounds. You could negotiate, you could mediate that one. But this is the same club. This is the same corporate structural brain trust that decided to give Phil Jones, was it a 5-year deal only a couple of years ago? Or was that last season? Time moves so quickly. So it should really come as no surprise. It should really come as no surprise whatsoever that we give this big contract or a longer contract extension to Eric Bailly, because that's what the board does. They always look for the cheaper alternative. If a Titanic was sinking, they just plug their finger in the gaps. That's what they do. That's what they would just do. That they would just do that straight away, and then they would think, we'll fix it later. We'll fix it later. Now Flex is in. Flex, Eric Bailly, new 3-year contract extension. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it feels weird, man. It doesn't have the right feel about it. At a time where we're looking for a centre half, it's tough. Do you know what I mean? And I think that Ollie could have made this point before. He could have changed the centre back partnership. I'm just going to change my mic around. I know what's wrong with it. He could have made this point before. He could have changed that centre back partnership before, but he didn't. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not sure that now seeing him. That's fine. I didn't have it turned on. Now that we've seen him sign a contract, does that mean he's going to drop Lindelof? No, it doesn't. Yeah. I think this smells a little bit. It's a little bit stinky of maybe we don't need to go and buy a centre half. We'll just try and keep Eric ticking along. Because also as well, what kind of conversation was had? Like, did Eric Bailly sign this being given false hope? Like, he hasn't been the number 1 centre half since he's been here. Like, he just hasn't. No. And especially this season, when Ollie's clearly gone with Lindelof and Maguire, I can't see him selling Lindelof and bringing in Bailly. That's not going to happen. Yeah. So I really like Bailly, honestly. And at times this season, I say he's our best centre back, or one of, yes. Should he play a lot more games? Yes, etc., etc. But what my concern about this is not really about what we think. It's actually what Ollie showed us he thinks. He knows he's made his mind up. He thinks that Lindelof is a better option than Bailly, because he's shown us that by his team selection. So it feels weird. And it's a long deal as well. So I'm thinking maybe sell on value, but either or, you can't put any of them past our club. You can't put it past us just putting him on that long contract, like you said, and Phil Jones in him, where he might just keep getting injured and he's on a long contract. You can't put it past us keeping him and not getting a centre half. And you can't put it past us getting another centre half, keeping Eric Bailly so he still doesn't play, keeping Axel so he still doesn't play, and play the new centre half and drop Lindelof. You can't discredit any of them things.
Well, it's a good point, actually, because this is the same club that has, how many goalkeepers under contract? It's not out of the realm of possibility. We have about 15 million centre backs under contract as well, and we can't figure out what to do with them. We just can't sell them. So it's an interesting point that you make. There's a super chat from Mario who says, quote, I love Bailly, but it's Phil Jones all over again. I think some people would probably, like you said, that you would agree on that one. And Ethan Johnson says, you think this is a deal so they can turn around and sell him, which is what Flex kind of touched on then. I don't see that. I don't see that, to be honest. I don't see this. I just don't see us as being that shrewd in terms of a club that we would go put him on a contract so we can sell him, because we're just not that good at doing business. We're not that good at doing business historically. You know, that's what I would say. That if this was another club, then maybe you would say, well, it's smart, get him on a contract. The price goes up, we can sell him on, we can move him on. But I mean, people said that about Phil Jones, and we haven't done that. So why would we do that with Eric Bailly? And when it comes to Eric Bailly playing more games, like you said, I think most people and your reaction, I think, is pretty typical for most people that I've seen on social media. Of everyone's going, it all starts off. Pretty much most of them start off with, "Look, I like Eric." It all starts off going, "Look, I like Eric," because everyone does. Everyone rates him. He's a good defender, and he's probably, like you said, arguably the best centre back at the club in terms of an all-round defender. Incredibly athletic. He's quick. But that injury record, and Solskjaer would know better than us. I mean, obviously, Solskjaer's got far more facts and figures than we do. He would know. He would know. And he's just realised, look, I can't. And I really do understand Ollie's situation here. You can't continuously go, right, we're going to build this relationship, Maguire and Bailly, when you know for a fact there's going to be, whether it's a month, 2 months, a 3-month period throughout the season where he's just not going to play. He's just not going to play because he's not physically able to. That's going to be a problem. And so I can understand. I understood both points of view when a couple of weeks ago, when those reports were coming out with Bailly being upset that he wasn't playing more because the quality is there, but so are the injuries. And how often do you keep going, this time he'll stay fit, this time he won't be injured? Because
that's the biggest worry about it. That's actually the biggest worry about it, because Ollie has shown his cards on this. Like, it's not like Ollie's undecided. It's not like one game he's playing Lindelof, then he's playing Bailly, and Maguire is the constant, which we know. He's played an unbelievable amount of games, so clearly he's the number one. But Lindelof is a close second. Like, they both play all the time. The only reason why Eric Bailly's had even a sniff this year is because Lindelof's had a back injury, and he's had to nurse that.
Exactly.
And then other times where he hasn't been able to play is because he's injured himself, which is like the last season. So as much as we say as fans how much we love Eric Bailly and he should be starting, we're all under no illusion that was basically for this season. Like, the long-termism in that is not really there. It's not really there. And I think this stinks of us maybe starting to say, you know what, we're not really going to be in the market for a significant centre-half. So we better secure Eric and keep him until maybe next year or the year after. I don't know. I would like one thing we have to say, though, which is on the air of positive. Maybe with not how we know how the club move, but signing him and not letting him go into the last year and stuff like that and getting him on a long contract is good for business. It's good for business because if they do want to sell him, like you said, I know you didn't really think that was what they were gonna do, but from a strictly business point of view, and my God, do we know that the club's all about the business point of view? It makes sense. It makes sense, innit? It makes sense. Like, all right, if they're gonna sell him,
it makes sense.
It makes sense. But I do agree with you, though, Owen. I do agree with you. When you look at it from not a business point of view, and probably what we will do because we make stupid ass decisions, I think it's just a sign that we're trying to take the cheap option. It's cheaper to keep Eric Bailly and maybe just give him a little bit more money each week and a signing on fee than it would be to say, go and get 70 million, 60 million. Let's get Varane. Let's put him on 250k a week, 220k, whatever.
I agree. Super chat from Samias says, Owen, you ready for the Europa League final? Arsenal going to get there? Oh, I didn't realise. Another one here says, just lost it. It says, looks like we aren't going to sign a new centre-back. We can't win titles with Lindelof and Maguire in defence. It's an interesting one because when it comes to that being a title-winning centre-back pairing, I would agree. I don't think most people think that Maguire and Lindelof is going to win you titles. I think it's an interesting point that flex that you make there as well, that Lindelof at points this season also, he's been carrying a back injury. Even when he has been carrying a back injury and Bailly has been available, Solskjaer still says, I would prefer Lindelof. So that shows the level of trust or the lack of that he has in Bailly, or whether it's Tuanzebe as well, because that's been a similar situation.
But what conversation has he had, though? What conversation?
I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
Because Eric Bailly, we were hearing that he was umming and ahhing about signing because he wants reassurance of game time, especially at this age, and I can understand that. So all of a sudden, for him to stay and sign a big contract, what has he been told? Don't worry, Eric, you're playing next year, 100%. Like, is Lindelof going to leave or what?
Yeah, or I mean, I wouldn't want to call Eric Bailly like, a mercenary for money or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination, but money talks, especially in this current climate, right? I mean, he's how old is he now? 27 years of age or something like that.
Yeah,
so that. It's a big contract. You would be looking for a big contract. Maybe when it comes to, we can turn it around and talk about the transfer plans again. Maybe it's a case of Ollie or the corporate structure, whoever's dealing with that, whether it's Matt Judge or the director of football, whoever, it's being told, look, we don't have that lot to spend in the summer. Put it into contracts because it's it's all we've got. So maybe it's a case of them saying, look, I can't guarantee, or Solskjaer saying, look, I can't guarantee you're going to be playing more games next season. I can guarantee you're going to have more money. And maybe that's the situation. And I just don't know. And I think, like you say, everyone's kind of the same opinion of this. Of look, if you had a fit Eric Bailly every single week and you could trust he was going to be there every single week,
100%.
It's a no-brainer.
100%.
It's an absolute no-brainer. He would be in there because we're screaming out for it. We're screaming out for a centre back that's got a bit of pace. Eric Bailly's got,
and we actually have one. Pace. We actually have one in the ranks. Like you said, it's just reliability. I'm just reading through some of his quotes there. I know you would have touched on some. So forgive me if I kind of repeat anything just before I came on. But where he said, I'm just looking at one that says, I hope I can be ready and I don't get any injuries and to be strong and finish the season well. I hope to win the Europa League this season. We will have more challenges next season. Hopefully the Champions League. And for me, my dream is to win the Premier League. That's my big dream. He's saying there, I hope I can be ready and don't get any injuries. So that's what we know exactly. That's what we're hoping for. That's what Ollie's hoping for. But also, how much of that is like dependent on what? If Lindelof is fighting fit, against Roma, he's going to start with Harry Maguire.
Absolutely.
In the second leg, he's going to start with Harry Maguire. And if we get to the final, what's he going to do? Drop Lindelof and just play Bailly in the final? Like Bailly's not going to have any part in this running. No. He might even be used to rest Lindelof for the last couple of Premier League games to be ready for a final. And that's me with wishful thinking, assuming that we get to the final because I feel confident. Obviously, we might not. But if we get to that situation, who would be sacrificed in that? It would be Lindelof. Right, you sit this one out, mate. I'll put Eric in. You're playing in the final. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I just feel that's indicative of Ollie's team selections all year. It's indicative of the way that Eric Bailly's been used. And it just shows that, like I said, Solskjaer has made his mind up. And this is why I find it really weird. As a fan, and as a fan of Eric Bailly, I am kind of happy he's staying. But when I just take my fan hat off and say, but is 100% behind Maguire and Lindelof, and if it's not going to be them two, then maybe I need to bring somebody else in and let someone like the likes of Eric Bailly go, who I haven't shown much faith in. Don't get it.
I think also, and this is a bugbear of mine. I don't know how you feel about this. It's a bugbear of mine. You know, when you have and we talk about this for loads of players over the years, whether it's, some of the best players of all time. Once they get that injury bug, it really frustrates me when people say, "Oh, he's a great player if he can stay fit." And that really frustrates me because it's like, well, if he can't stay fit, and without wanting to sound like Roy Keane, that is your job. You know what I mean? If you can't stay fit, there's a massive problem there, whether it's the club managing you, whether it's you managing yourself with your fitness. And that's kind of the issue with Bailly that kind of frustrates me is, oh, he'd be great if he's fit. But if you're not fit and if he is on improved terms, and we don't know if that's the case or not, but again, you're throwing money at an issue that you haven't been able to resolve. You haven't been able to resolve his fitness problems. So I find that very odd, and obviously the proximity to the Super League and the Glazer apology and all that kind of stuff. It does seem, I don't want to be like tinfoil hat conspiracy or anything like that, but it feels very smokescreen of, oh, we've had a lot of bad news recently. Let's throw a bit of good news. You know what I mean? I don't know about you.
I hear what you're saying. There's a quick quote coming in here, and then I'll elaborate on what you just said there. We're in a good position. We have the Europa League, and we are second in the league, and that is very good. We hope we can win this trophy, which is the Europa League, obviously. It's very important for us and for the fans and for the season. We want to finish well in the Premier League as well. I'm sure we will. It's just generic stuff, isn't it? If you play for the team, one Matter would say that, and he hasn't kicked the ball yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure Lee Grant thinks all of that. Like he does, he wants us to win all of it. But on what you said there about that kind of, that saying, if he could do this, then he would be that 100%. And not even just always about fitness. Sometimes it's like, oh, if he could just finish his chances, then he would be this. Or
Yeah.
If he just worked harder, then he would be this.
It's
or if his crossing was better, then he would. You know, it is kind of picking out the bit that you want him to improve on. But you're right. It means that it means that they're not up to what you want them to be. Like you said, it is a bit Roy Keane-ish, but it's true. And that's what I just got massive reservations. I honestly thought that he would leave. I couldn't see a decision made like this, especially such a long contract as well. Now, look, like you said there, I don't want to get into trying to label Eric Bailly a mercenary or anything like that, because, you know, I think he is a fantastic player, but he's not playing football right now. And that's why I'm so fixed. That's why I can't really move past what did this conversation look like. KG always says a lot, Ollie lies. People say Ollie lies. And there's got to be some sort of lying that's happened here, because why would Eric Bailly be happy with this unless he was given the reassurances?
Well, maybe this is the conversation that has been had. Maybe Ollie has put his cards on the table. Maybe he said, "Look, we're not going to bring a centre back in the summer. We need you because it's been, you know, maybe that's the situation. We don't know. We don't know that thing."
So if he has done that, is that the right thing to do? That Ollie's saying, you know what, you've been maybe fitter than you had, even though he still had injury problems. I don't think there's ever been a time when he hasn't had injury problems, but he's actually been quite available amongst injuries this year. But it's just that, like you said, Ollie would rather just go Lindelof and Maguire. Do you think that that's a good thing if Ollie has said, listen, Eric, you're going to play next year?
But I don't know. Again, I would question Eric Bailly, because I would say, you really believe that? You really believe that? Because the evidence isn't there. The evidence isn't there. You know, it's an interesting point. Another super chat here from Mario says, one positive is perhaps they buy a competent central defensive midfielder. At this point, you know, once you start getting into these sort of situations again, whether it's Bay, new contract, I mean, again, this is the same organization, brain trust, geniuses that gave Phil Jones a new 4 or 5 year contract. And again, I think that was out of, people tried to cloak that at the time of, it's salon value. It's salon value. Still there. He's still there. So I don't know. I like you said, Flex, I find it a really odd one. I do find this a really odd one. And it makes you wonder what the conversation has had. It does. I mean, like I said, that's the real confusing thing here. And look, maybe, like I said, maybe it is given the proximity to the Super League. Obviously, there's the protest on Sunday as well. Is it a bit of good news to distract you? Again, I don't even know if they're that calculated.
Yeah, exactly. Another super chat here from David, the guy from the Delhi counter. David is here. Good morning, gentlemen. It's the Delhi guy. No offense to the centre back, but not signing any new defenders just pushes us to sign that 100k for 50% of the club. I hear what you're saying there, Dave, in terms of it stinks, basically, is what he's saying. It stinks. And that's what I'm saying. I just worry. I massively worry what's in store now. For the Super League bollocks, we was already saying that. We was already thinking, we got to get this summer right. How's it going to look? What's it going to be like? I don't think. KG rang me earlier about this Eric Bailly thing, and we were talking, and he was just like, "Nah, I think, you know, do you really think the club could be that stupid to kind of like just, you know, with the fans this angry, like give us another shit summer?" And I was like, "Would you put it past them? Would you put it past?" They've proved they do what the hell they want. They don't care about us, and I think it's starting to. And listen, if we're sitting here in what is it? What? June? When does it open? June, maybe? July? June, I think it opens, isn't it? The transfer window.
Yeah, July.
If we're sitting here in June, July, whenever, right? If we're sitting here in the summer and we've signed Varane, we've got a defensive mid, or we've got a strike, and we've done really well, we will all stand corrected. The Glazers won't be off the hook, by the way, because what we are in defence of is we're in defence as the fan base against both eventualities, against both possibilities. The first possibility is they try to appease us by actually doing their jobs and getting some decent players in.
Yeah.
But against the second thing is, like you said, doing this and making it so that they don't sign anyone, trying to sign players to have the cheap option. Do you know what I mean? So we're aware. We're on the necks of the Glazers. Don't think like I'm talking like they're watching. But
yeah, we know you're watching.
Yeah, we know you're watching, Avram. We know you are with your flappy ponytail thing.
Joel with his pen, not my pen. Write another letter.
But yeah, that's how we see it. And I'm so defensive right now, and I think all of us are on kind of red alert that either or, you're not going to pull the wool over our eyes. But if we do sign Varane, having made this move, I would have to say, well done, Ollie, and stuff like that. But I cannot see that happening at all. I can't see a big money centre back coming in now we've made that move.
Cool, because even if we do sign, say we did sign Varane, right? At this point, I don't know if it's going to happen, especially with the news today. But if we sign Varane, the decision to extend by his contract becomes even more bizarre, doesn't it? Because you would go, well, why did you extend the contract? Because how many centre backs you got under contract now? You've got Maguire, Lindelof, Bailly, Tuanzebe, Phil Jones. The list goes on and on. It does become. It's a head scratcher, but I think it's a big indicator of what is. Well, I was going to say what's to come, but what's not to come. I think that's probably the indicator there, which is it's odd. It feels really, really odd. And again, I don't want to be one of those people that says, well, if he can stay fit, I'm living in hope. I mean, you look at facts, don't you? You look at patterns, and the pattern is that either he can't stay fit, or when he is fit, Solskjaer doesn't fancy the risk. He doesn't fancy the risk,
and now what it leads us into thinking is that we're just going to have a poor summer again. That's where we're at. All right, let me put this. Oh my God, I can't remember when to say this. Let me put this to you, Owen, and you guys at home as well. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section. Could you see other crazy extensions? Now, the Paul Pogba one was a crazy one. Like, a lot of us want him to stay. Some of you want him to go. I'm talking like Matic. I'm talking like, Phil Jones is another one. He's coming to the end. Imagine that. I'm not even going to now happen, but Mata is another one. Hasn't played all season. Say, Mata, looks like he's coming to the end. Give him another one. Yes, Rojo probably looks out the door. I understand that, and Romero. But in terms of Matic and Mata and stuff like that, Axel Tuanzebe as well. What does it mean for Axel Tuanzebe as well as those players that I just mentioned? My first question, Owen, is: do you think we're going to do more crazy extensions? And secondly, what do you think is going to happen to Axel? And you guys at home in the 3-6, let us know.
Well, when it comes to extensions, I think that obviously, again, it's an indicator of what's to come or what isn't to come. It's an indicator that they're looking at all of those possibilities now. So whether it is Cavani, whether it is Mata, whether it is Matic, give us another year. It's a bit crazy right now. Give us another year. We'll figure it out. And when it comes to that, I wouldn't be surprised. And what it means for Tuanzebe, I don't even think he knows. We spoke about the conversation when it comes to what did Ollie say to Eric Bailly. What's he said to Tuanzebe? What conversation did he have with him at the start of the season? What conversation did he have with him after that brilliant performance in Paris against PSG? Because you would have think, if I was a player, I would think, right, that's my foot in the door. I'm going to be the regular starter now. And he barely played since. He played he played in Turkey, didn't he? He didn't have the best game there, but it just, like we said, when it comes to if it's a big match, or even if there's the opportunity for rotation, it's Maguire, it's Lindelof, irrespective of injuries, irrespective of if Lindelof can walk, he's playing. That's about it. Irrespective of if Bailly's fit, if Tuanzebe's fit, and like you said, it just makes you wonder, what are the conversations? What are the conversations being had here? Or maybe the lack of conversations. I don't know. And even with Bailly, I think this is the interesting thing when he spoke about it earlier. He knows about his injuries. He said it in one of his quotes, the injury problems are past me now. I'm feeling better. And it's like, but is that true?
Yeah,
is
how
that true?
Are you feeling? Exactly. A super chat here. I don't know if Joy could do a bit of research while we're live here, actually, about Eric Bailly's appearances since he's come. Simply Better says Eric has just over 60 Premier League games for United, and 25 of those were in his first season. My God, when I thought the club couldn't annoy me anymore. I'm just checking that because it's true, How many games has Eric Bailly actually played since he came in, 2016, I want to say? Is that when he came? Because and 25 of those were in his first season. He hasn't played more than 100 games for us yet.
I saw...
Yeah, Joy's checking it out, but what's your reaction to that? If that's true.
If that's true, again, it's not good. And again, they must have those statistics in front of them. They must know that. I said at the start of the stream, Eric Bailly's been out since he signed that contract, his first contract. He's been out injured for over 500 days. That's like 18 months. That's a long time. That's a really long time. I mean, he's talking about winning the Europa League. Last time we were in a Europa League final, he was on the touchline in crutches, wasn't he? That's part of the memory. Who's to say that wouldn't be the case in a couple of weeks' time if we get there? You know, when you do these contracts, when you do transfer deals, it's all about risk and reward, isn't it? You weigh these things up. You weigh the things up. What's the most likely outcome? What does history say? And it just feels like, I mean, again, we don't know if it's improved terms or all that kind of stuff, but you talk about it maybe saving money. It could be a waste of money, because if he's injured again for the next 3 years, then you would go, well, you could have at least maybe looked to sign someone instead, because you know that they were going to play. So it's.
I find it hard to believe he hasn't played 100 games for the club. I need to know. I'm gonna have a look as well. I mean, it's on 100 on the dot.
100 on the nose in 5 years.
Right, so 100 on the dot in 5 years. So there you go. So 5 years. Gosh. And I'm saying I can't believe he hasn't played at least 100, but 100 on the dot. Right. So 25 league appearances in his first season.
Right.
Second season, he played 13 times in the league. Third season, he played 12 times in the league.
Right.
Last season, he played 4 times in the league. 4. Right. And this season, how many times he played? 8 times in the league. What the fuck are we doing?
So this is the first season this season where he's actually not gone down year on year in terms of appearances in the league, and it's only 8.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute.
So you look at those, you look at that, and it's if it was a graph, it'd be going like this. It's getting lower, a little bit of a bump in the last year, and they go, right, new contract. That's improvements.
Right,
that's improvement right there.
Owen. I like Eric Bailly. I do like Eric Bailly. I've never sat and done that math before. Do you know that? Now I've heard that. What are we doing?
I said that's the people. That's the people doing the contracts for this club. That's what I said about the Phil Jones. They don't. I said earlier they have that information in front of them. Though.
But now, before I'm like, I like Eric Bailly. This could be good for either way, etc., etc. Now I'm thinking, why have we offered him an extension? What are we playing at? He's played. What are we doing? So I got Jory in my ear.
Yeah.
So across his entire career, the only time he's played more than 25 games, did you say, Jory? The only time he's played more than 20 games is twice in 2 seasons. Out of all the seasons he's played.
And he's 27.
And he's 27. Do you know what? Again, I love Eric Bailly's character. I do.
I tell you, everyone starts off with it. I told you, everyone starts off with that. I love Eric.
But I love him. So really, we have to think of the best for the team. Is it within Man United's best interest to have this player who's got a proven track record, who can't stay fit? On top of that, the manager doesn't even my tone's completely changed. I'm pissed off. Now I've actually heard do you know what it is?
Flex has fallen off the fence.
Mate, I've come off the fence completely. Simply better. Big up yourself, Simply. I should have listened to you. Told you, Flex. That was the league stats I gave her. Yeah, 100%. I'm just gonna get them to actually see visually. It depends what type of learner you know. You know, if you're like kinesthetic learner, if you learn by memory and stuff like that. I'm looking at the numbers now.
What's interesting as well with those small numbers, if you figure out, I mean, this is getting really. I didn't realize this stream was going to get so mathematical. But considering his wage, you could work out how much per appearance that's cost Man United, because they're not that many appearances. Not many, That's one for the free seats to do. Get your maths in.
Yeah. What was that?
I can't do it. I'm not smart enough.
Oh, 47. Oh, so this is before I can't see it all. It's just total. That must be at Villarreal. Yeah. So since he come to us, that was what was it? 18 was when he come to us, or the 38 appearances. So his first season across all competitions, he played 38 games. That is where you're saying we've signed a guy from Villarreal, 30 million. He's an integral part. He's played 40 games in a season. Brilliant.
Yeah, he's young as well.
He's young at the time, exactly, because this was like, 5 years ago, if that?
Yeah.
You're saying, yes, this is a good buy. Then it's just steadily declined. The next season, he he played 18 games in all competitions. Then he played another 18 games in all competitions. Then it was 11. Then it's 15. Like,
what are we doing?
That's actually properly pissed me off, because I actually, again, have such affection to Eric Bailly. I love when he plays. I think he should play more often. But why are we giving him a 4-year deal, a 3-year with an extension to, with option to extend? I just don't understand it, and it proper worries me now. It worries me.
And they think that's the cheaper alternative. You know what I mean? They think that's the cheaper alternative, when in terms of return on value and per appearance, how much money that's costing out, that's the cheaper option for them. That's
300k per appearance we've worked out. 300k per appearance. I mean, I wouldn't mind giving him that. I wouldn't mind giving him that if he played every week, because that's like being on 300k a week. Obviously, don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money for Eric Bailly. Shouldn't be. But at least if he played every week, you could say, oh, you're 300. Not even Pogba plays every week, and he's on what, 200 and whatever. De Gea doesn't even play. What are we doing? The club's fucked.
I know that is. Oh.
Like Phil Jones is on 120k a week. He ain't kicked the ball in about 2 years.
Get ready for the smokescreen of Phil Jones extended by 5 years. I just felt that my injuries are behind me now. I feel better in myself. I'm going to win Europa League.
And I take that back about Phil Jones, because he hasn't not played in 2 years. He played last year and scored a great header against that team we played in the cup. Actually, it was against the team that. When I was actually shouting at Eric Bailly, I was like, Eric, get your rugby studs out. The pitch is awful. And he was laughing. What? Who would not Preston? When Harry Maguire scored that goal. Who did we play in the cup last year? Tranmere. That's the one. Tranmere. Yeah. That was the last time I think Phil Jones played, I want to say. And he scored. Great header.
Value for money. Flex. Get him another 10-year deal. Board looking at that. They go tick. Nice.
Oh, and what are we doing? So Axel Tuanzebe then, how does he fit into this?
I don't think he knows. I don't think the board knows. If they're trying to figure out those numbers, putting all those together, I don't think they know. They'll figure it out when he's got 3 months left in his contract, and they'll realise they haven't played him for 3 years, and they'll go, right, sign a deal, done.
So George just said that Tuanzebe has played more for Man United in the last 2 years than Eric Bailly has. How long's he been back since for Villa? 2 years. That's since and he never plays.
And he was injured. And he was injured. He was injured for a year. Yeah, he was, pretty much.
Nah, that's impossible, Joy. That can't be. That can't be.
Are you doubting Jorty's skills?
I am doubting Jorty's
live.
So he's played 10 and 15, and he's played, and Bailly's 11 and 15. Yeah. It's bad though. Mario says we just signed him up to make Pogba stay and to have another experienced important member of our medical staff. That is cheeky. Well, someone else said that, like, if it's to help Paul Pogba stay. I mean, do you think Paul Pogba would stay because Eric Bailly has stayed?
No, I don't. No. I really don't think that comes into it, that kind of stuff. I know sometimes people like to think that, if he stays, I'll stay. It's not as if, it's not like Bruno Fernandes's contract was expiring. You know what I mean? And then he signed it to go, statement of intent by Manchester United. What kind of statement is that? It's a shitty statement, is what it is. That's what that statement is. That's a statement of, we're not going to do anything in the summer. So there you go, Eric, have a new contract, even though you haven't played for 3 years, or when you have, it's been 5 games. I don't, like I said, once you break down the numbers of it, and I'm glad that we've actually got the numbers. Once you see those numbers, they're striking. They're really, they really stand out, and that's the cheaper option. They've looked at that and gone, right, what's cheaper? So paying someone that might not play, or buying someone that probably will play. Oh, I don't want to do the work. Eric, new contract. And this is a guy, 2 weeks ago, he didn't want to. 2 weeks ago, it was reported they didn't want to stay.
That's what exactly. Has
that happened in 2 weeks?
What's happened in 2 weeks? That's why I'm so concerned, and would love to have been a fly on the wall in that conversation with Ollie. What was said? What the hell was said? Because he's changed his tune, and you only change a tune with new information. And new reassurances, and also just when I just look at the chain of how we're doing things, I just think we're doing it the wrong way around. I really do. We've proved we can get it wrong. We gave Axel a new deal. We gave we We've given Axel a long-term deal, not used him, and he's got injury problems. I hate to see that as a young buck, but that's the truth.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're out for a year with injuries. We don't know what they were.
100%. And I'm not. And you know what? I'm not necessarily blaming this all on Ollie. People who again are waiting for Ollie to trip up, right, would say, well, they were signed all on his watch, so it's his fault. He has the final say so. But as you know, in these football clubs, how much say the manager has over transfers, they can all say in press conferences, every decision that's made is mine. Doesn't always mean it's true.
I was going to say, Flex, he's been saying they listen to my opinions. They listen to my opinion.
Exactly.
And they respect my opinion.
So he could have easily have said, I don't think Pereira's the guy. Yeah. I don't want him here. But they gave him a new contract, but then Ollie sent him out on loan. Clearly didn't want him. So again, as a business, they need him to have a bit of sell-on value, even though Ollie weren't planning on using him. Yeah. Jesse Lingard, it hasn't really worked out, you know. Hopefully he secures the bag and gets regular football. One matter, okay, you need experience in and around the squad. You don't just cast away people like that. Same a bit with Matic, but again, Ollie's not using them. So, you know, how do we know that this ain't another one of them? Do you think Ollie would have said, well, I don't really think, you know, we should. He's going to play. You know, he sat there with Ed Woodward and said, "Look, you can keep him, but he's not going to be the main guy still. I'm just going to use him exactly how I always have." Or do you think he actually really does want to play him, or it's just a smokescreen for everything?
Well, to be honest, I think probably the latter. I think there's probably a smokescreen because we're talking about, like I said, a 2-week period where there's been a massive U-turn. So they might have read the room and said, you know what, we need something to release at the moment. So it could be that. There's a real obvious disconnect somewhere. There's a real obvious disconnect. Whether it is, like you said, with the Pereira one's a great example of we signed a new contract, then he's out on loan or whatever. There's an obvious disconnect. And I wouldn't be surprised if the discussion has been had between Ollie and the higher ups to say, look, Eric, well, his contract's expiring, what you think? And he's saying, look, I've got my centre-back partnership. I would prefer, I know you respect my opinion, I would prefer that you get a new set, we get a new centre-back. I've got some ideas. And then maybe there's some pushback to say, look, we don't want to let him go on a free. We've got some, because this is a thing with United over the course of the last few years, isn't it? It's always running down to like the last 6 months, or it's always running down to the last year, and then no one knows what's going on. And then let's trigger the extension because we haven't figured it out yet. And then we panic at the end of it and give them an inflated new deal. It's such a weird thing with United with contracts. It's either letting them run out and then you let people like Herrera go on a free because you've waited so long, or you get people like Phil Jones and then you suddenly give them a massive inflated one. Who is doing these contracts? Because it's a constant every year, at least once or twice a year. There's always a head scratcher of going, how on earth have they got contracts? And what are the terms on that? It's every year. It's every year. There's a new contract. We go, I don't know what they're thinking there. So I know, like you said, it's such a head scratcher.
It doesn't make any sense. Greg Hempsel says Ollie probably doesn't have a choice. No new defenders. And that's the sad thing about this. That is the sad thing about this, because we always say, like, it doesn't matter what you think about Ollie in terms of the way he plays football, his tactical decisions. Forget that. I'm talking about the regime of the club and the structure in which he works under. We always say that Ollie has got two hands tied behind his back. He needs backing, or he needs the support. He needs pushing in the right direction if he wants to, or he needs to be allowed to take us in the direction he wants to take us in freely. And some of these decisions, and I'm not saying this definitely isn't his decision, but I'm going to go on more of the side that it probably isn't all his choice. Like someone just said there in the super chat, it's not helping him. It's not helping us. It's not helping him. Going for the cheap option when we clearly can see Ollie, football decisions speak wonders. Like I always say, a manager can say what the hell he wants to say in any press conference to any of us fans. It's who he picks on a Saturday or Sunday or Thursday night, Wednesday night. It's who he picks in the games that speaks volumes. And not just he's on the bench sometimes, so he's a bit, undecided because they're both kind of as good as each other. It's much of a muchness, like the Henderson De Gea situation. They're coming in, they're coming out. No, Bailly's just clear number 3. Like, unless there's a problem to number 1 and number 2, you ain't playing. You're not playing, and you're injured all the time. So I cannot understand unless he leaves. But would they really do that? Let him leave straight away in the summer? He's on transfer list straight away. It's not FIFA. Do you know what I mean?
No, exactly. I think also as well, maybe I think we have to be fair here, because we now know, because the club have explained it, we know the structure in terms of contracts, transfers, whether it's Matt Judge, whether it's John Murto, or not Ed Woodward now. I don't know how involved he would be, but we know the structure. So I think it's unfair if Ollie gets a lot of the blame. Maybe he's had a discussion, but we know who's physically doing those deals. We know who's signing off on them. So whilst Ollie might have had a discussion, ultimately, who knows how much of an influence he's really had. It could just be a case of he just shows up for the photo on the website. He goes, "Signed a new deal, have you? Oh, right, okay. Photo, shake hands, done." He might not know. Genuinely, I mean, he didn't know about the Super League. Who knows what he knows about that much at the club at the moment, especially of all of the corporate whispering that goes on in those higher ups. Who's to say that he just goes, "Look, it's in the hands of the people above me. They'll sort it out. I'll know one way or the other. Either Eric's going to show up or he won't come the end of the season." Maybe it's. I mean, I don't even know if it's fair to necessarily put a lot of criticism on Ollie about it, because I really don't think he has that kind of influence above him. He, like he said in the press conference, he might share his opinion. Whether or not they truly listen to it, take it into account, I have a feeling or an impression those people above him, they kind of just do what they want, and Ollie's got to deal with what he deals with, and that's a shame. That's a shame as a Manchester United fan, going from a point where Sir Alex Ferguson had his fingerprints over everything. We've kind of got to a point now where, I mean, the manager or the coach, probably a better way of phrasing it, the coach doesn't have his fingerprints on really anything.
Exactly, it's true. I'm struggling with it all. And now it's just put me in a position where, look, like I said, we're not going to forget about what's going on. The protests.
No, that's the important thing.
Exactly. This is, this is not as big as that, but it feeds into that though. It does feed into that, because they're taking the easy route, the route that is the least money spent, the route that doesn't take out of their back pocket as much as, like you said, moving him on and investing in a proper centre half. And that's no disrespect to Eric Bailly, but someone who's going to be fit and able to do their job more often than not is a proper centre half,
Yeah.
And let's just be real. He isn't that. As much as I love him and all that, I'm just going to say it as he is. We need better. Yeah. We need more reliable. I need someone who's going to do their job. But what we're finding ourselves is in a position now where it's not actually moving away from what we're talking about. This is exactly what we are talking about, which is the owners taking the piss. The owners taking the easy option. The owners refusing to invest in the right way. And I always try and reserve judgment. I don't really like going too strong on an opinion when there's still scope for it to be proved wrong. That's just how I am as a person. But sometimes you have to, and if I have to stand corrected in the summer because they did get Varane on top of this, then I will stand corrected. And I'll say, well, you know what? You still don't pull the wool over my eyes, because there's this one thing you've got right out of a million. But on that one, I was wrong. And I've got no problem saying that. But right now, what I will say is give you my 100% feeling of how I'm feeling now when I'm actually processing this, of what they're doing. Like, you're taking the piss. You're doing what you always do, which is the easy route. The cheaper route.
So I mean, there's that every year there's always a contract which you just go, why? That doesn't make any sense. And even if we do sign Varane, it doesn't change that this deal doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, it makes less sense. It makes less sense.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it makes less sense.
70 million, and then you've just given Eric Bailly a 4-year extension on X amount, 100 grand a week, and you don't sell him. Then what? Then we're going to be stuck, like you said there. We're going to be stuck with all the flipping, like the goalkeeper situation, and Axel's probably still going to be there. What's going to give?
Exactly. And then you have the situations again of so-and-so hasn't even been registered for the squads, and they're just taking up a paycheck when they could be moved on to other transfer targets. Every year there's always something like this. And, like everyone keeps saying, like you said, I like Eric. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, nothing personal.
No, but it just, from a business point of view, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But the most important thing out of all of this is we can have our initial reaction and we can react to it and we can dissect the deal. It doesn't change anything. It still shouldn't serve as any form of division, because I think maybe the owners might hope that. They might hope that maybe it divides a little bit. Maybe some people saying Eric should stay, or people can blame Ollie. Why are you signing off on a deal even though he doesn't sign off on them, or all this kind of stuff. It shouldn't serve as anything like that. We should still stay united. Still can't be divided. I know people have tried over the course of the last few years to find stuff to try and divide the fan base. That shouldn't matter. The most important thing is you've got to keep staying united. You've got to keep making our voices heard, and ultimately it's got to lead to the Glazers going out. This is the best chance we've got or ever had. So they're going to try everything to try and distract us, divide us, you name it. And that goes for the Glazers, that goes for other forms of media, whatever. It doesn't matter. The most important thing, it's in the name. You've got to stay united.
Yeah, exactly. It is true. And we're not going to stop thinking about it. We're not going to let this pull the wool up. Well, this can't pull the wool over our eyes. This makes it worse. This highlights what we're saying, which shows you like the ignorance of the owners in the first place. You know, this shows you that they actually got no interest in trying to make this work. If this is what's going to happen, and they don't invest in a centre half. But like you said, even if they do invest in a centre half whilst doing this, something or someone has to give or go. Like Axel's gonna have to leave because he's never gonna play. Owen's just rebooting it a sec. Axel's got to go because he's never gonna play. Then if we get another centre half on top of that, he's fixed now. No, he's not. If we get another centre half on top of that, i.e. Varane or whoever it is, then Eric Bailly's not going to play on this big new contract. Then Eric Bailly will be the new Phil Jones. Are we deep in that? That's what's going to happen here. Like, I'm not talking about ability-wise, but in terms of contract-wise and not being able to contribute to the team because there's so many people ahead of you, / you're injured, he's going to be the new Phil Jones. Unless something drastically changes. Like, drastically.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we talk about with United as well, this big bloated squad that whenever you have the opportunity to trim the fat, and I'm not saying that Bailly's necessarily, trim the fat, that kind of stuff, but when you have these opportunities to move players on, you've got to be slightly cutthroat, and sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're not.
Well, this is just coming from Leah Smith. She's at Stretty News. They're doing great stuff over there. I met someone from Stretty News at the protest the other day, and they're doing really good stuff, and we had a good chat. And what she says is there is a growing feeling that Rafael Varane is more likely to leave Real Madrid this summer than he is to stay. The club know this too. Every attempt for renewal has been rejected. Real senior figures have suggested that they want between 60 million to 70 million euros. I mean, nothing we didn't know in terms of his availability. His availability is there, but after the move we've just made, this is what pisses me off even more. After the move we've made, essentially, we shouldn't really have to go and buy a centre half. You've just invested into one. Say Eric Bailly was doing the business, right? And Lindelof was. You'd keep them both. You'd keep the competition healthy. You sign them up. You retain your best players. Kind of what we want to do with Pogba. You don't want their contracts to run down, and you keep your best players. But the fact that we've done that, and we could still potentially bring in another centre half, because the need for one is still there. We've already said that if Eric Bailly stays or goes, don't change the fact that we need a centre half. It don't change the fact that Ollie don't pick him. Well, I don't think it will anyway, unless Ollie springs a massive surprise on us. And then so you see that Rafael Varane, you have a clear shot at this player. A clear shot at this player. So rather than go, he's fit, he's ready, he's won everything, he's world class, what a player. You drop Lindelof, however harsh you may see it, you play him next to Maguire because we know Maguire's going to play. Go and spend the 65 million, let's say, make Real Madrid happy, get Varane out of there, give him the big piece. He's a world-class player. Instead of doing that, we take the cheaper option, but invest kind of heavily into Eric Bailly, but not as heavily as a new player, and go down that route. And probably miss out on Varane now.
And also as well, from maybe the board's point of view, it's almost like they're not even backing themselves to be able to get a Varane deal over the line. They're not even trusting themselves. Oh, we don't even know if we could do it. So we got our insurance policy. We still signed up Eric Bailly for another 3 years. It's just it screams again, no confidence to do deals. It screams the cheaper option. It screams a very worrying summer, and the fans are angry anyway. And it's just going to be on top of that more frustration. It's a head scratcher.
It is a massive head scratcher, and like I said, you guys are agreeing in the comments as well. Marco says we need the Glazers gone, and Mohammed says new contract to a player that didn't play over 100 games in 4 years. But there's so many ways of saying it that can make it sound so much worse. But they're all facts. Like they're all facts. Like Mohammed's so right. We're giving a new contract to a player who didn't play 100 games in 4 years, and we play like 40 plus. about 50 games a season sometimes, isn't it? About that.
Oh, I mean, well, we're not necessarily, always in, well, for historical in recent years, I haven't always been in the Champions League, but we've been mostly in some European competition, right? And all the other cup competitions. So to not get over that threshold of games, that's just, it's madness, really. It's madness. And once you see the numbers there, it's staggering, really. It really is staggering.
All the reports I'm seeing now at the moment as well. Real Madrid are open to selling defender Ramos this year. Not Ramos, sorry. What's his face? Varane. And even he said, I saw a quote that basically he was saying like, everyone knows my situation. I'm just focused on finishing off the league and stuff. He's going to go. Like he's not signing. He's not. And I just look at some of Solskjaer's quotes about how he talks about him. Eric has improved his robustness since my time as manager, and he will continue to play a significant part in the squad. Will he though?
Has he improved his robustness? Really?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't see it as that. How many times did we say he's played this season? What was it? 8? How many times? What was it? And he said squad, not first team. Exactly. You've got to kind of read in between the lines. He says, I'm pleased that Eric has signed a new contract. He is still learning and improving all of the time under the coaches here. And he says he possesses fantastic speed, timing of tackle, and has that aggression, which, of course, you need as a centre-half. He is a popular member of the squad, and we look forward to continuing to work with him going forward. It's all pretty generic stuff. Like it's... Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can say that if Lee Grant got an extra year.
Yeah.
Like, he's a great member of the squad. The lads like him. He's working hard in training. He's getting stronger. He's getting fit. Yeah, but you're never going to pick him.
Yeah,
you're never going to pick him.
I mean, I don't want to be one of those people. Do you think they did this because of that? Because again, I don't think they're smart enough. But do you reckon it's even a possibility that once you get by on a contract, you can then it's easier to negotiate with Real Madrid because we don't appear as desperate? I mean, even as I'm saying that myself, I still think that's a reach. But I mean, what do you think?
Well, that's what we have to end up talking about because it's such a reach. And it's such a bad decision. You have to start looking at some of the positive in inverted commas that could come out of it, and that's what I mean. Like he's now a player. If you're trying to sell a player who has a 4-year contract, you're in a good position for his price. But then again, and we're going to undo all of the positives because that's just how I feel about it. Sorry. Then again, you're in a bad position because you've got a player who is not fit, he's injury prone on a long contract, which means it's harder for you to sell him for a high price. Because if I'm a buyer and I'm coming in and saying I want to buy Eric Bailly, and you tell me he costs, well, he's just signed a new deal, mate. He's you bought him for 30, so can we expect to get even more for him? Maybe not, but they might try and use that. Oh, he's 35 million, mate. Piss off, mate. He just about played 100 games for you.
It's like the Phil Jones situation, isn't it? It's the Phil Jones situation. If I've signed that contract, people go, right, we can sell him for money. Well, you're assuming people want to spend money. The fact that who's going to go in for Phil Jones? They'll say, well, he's expensive because he signed a contract. People say, well, yeah, but he doesn't play. He's too injury prone. It's a risk for us to part with this money. And it's kind of the same with Bailly, really, isn't it? If anyone wanted to buy him and put in a transfer fee, they would say, well, we're not going to go crazy high because it's a risk. We don't know if he's going to play all of these games. So even that sense of, well, there's some salon value. I mean, there's more because you're not going to lose him on a free. But I mean, realistically, how much more money is there going to be the salon value? Because every club is going to be looking at it like the fans are, saying, "Yeah, but his injury record. I mean, what am I investing here?"
There's a lot of Varane's trending on Twitter as well. So I like, just since we're live, it'd be interesting to do this. We don't normally do this, but we get a little bit of reaction to why he's trending and what's going. Chelsea ahead of Man United and Raphael Varane transfer race. Again, we had a clear run at this player. And now we're procrastinating and stalling and not really showing any intent. And we've just signed our most injury-prone centre-half alongside Phil Jones. Chelsea are probably licking their lips. Obviously Romano tweeted a few hours ago saying that what Varane's quotes were, which was, "My future is clear. I'm focused on the end of this season. We are in a very intense and key moment." So then he says there's still no agreement to extend his contract, which expires in June 2022. So they're not going to want him going into his final. His final year. I can't see it. And for me, so what else did he say? He says, I don't know why everyone is referring to tomorrow as a semi-finalist against Chelsea. We've been told by Zidane tomorrow. Oh, right. Okay. It's a bit silly. I think it's time to just forget it. Like it's time to just move on already. Honestly, if I stand corrected, I stand corrected. But it's time to move on. I really do, because he's not going to come. We're not going to invest into him because I think we've picked who we're going to invest into, unless we get a really cheap like an Ahmad version of a centre half.
It might be a situation of maybe they had those discussions with Varane and all that, and then suddenly his agent's gone, you know, Chelsea are interested, and then United just shit themselves. Like, oh, Eric, do you want a contract? Because they panic, because they don't know what's going on. You know, they don't back themselves. Maybe it's a case of that. Maybe it's a case of that, or maybe it's a case. Maybe it's a case of hearing with Varane, they might have already heard something when it comes to a potential Chelsea deal. I don't know. It's like, again, these reports a couple of weeks ago, you got a free run at him. A couple of weeks ago, Eric Bailly's not interested. What has changed in the course of the last 14 days that hasn't been involved in the Super League? Something has. Something obviously has.
Do you think so? Their willingness to, I know this is like one extreme to the other in terms of the type of player, but hear me out on this. The fact that they've been so willing to extend by maybe for the wrong circumstances, do you think there's a situation where we can see the extension or another contract for Paul Pogba then, but for the right reasons?
Well, I think they're looking at it. They're obviously looking at it. If they're willing to, and again, we don't know the terms. I'd love to know if it's the same terms or improved terms or anything like that. Because if it's improved terms, that's an indicator. Okay, they're willing to raise wages as opposed to bringing new people in. And that's been the discussion when it comes to Pogba, hasn't it? Of if you let him go, even if it would be maybe a bit of a cut price because of his contract situation, it would still be more expensive to bring someone in. The value is maybe keeping his contract. Maybe it's the case of that. Maybe it's another case of that where they realize actually it's easier if we just put money at the situation in terms of giving them a new contract. So I don't think Pogba stays because Bailly stays or anything like that, but maybe it's just a growing point of frustration with United of, okay, let's just get these contracts done. If we get these contracts done, at least we can say we did something over these, like, getting into the summer months, because we're not going to do anything when it comes to transfers.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think it leads to Pogba staying? Do you think it has any influence?
I don't think this in particular has influence. I think if he's going to stay, he's going to stay. I think he'll stay because for a variety of reasons, if he does stay, the money that they would charge for him, another club can't pay it. The wages in this climate, maybe another club can't pay it unless there's some swaps involved and they get really imaginative and something comes out the woodwork. But other than that, I can't see it happening. So I think potentially he could stay, but for those reasons. But I don't think it would be because, oh, look what we've done. We've had a masterstroke. We convinced Paul, oh, he's staying because, the project's so great and all of this stuff. I think it would just be because he couldn't get the move that he wanted to, which is kind of sad, really, because I love Paul Pogba. And he's a great player. And I do want him to stay off footballing ability as well. Like, he's so sick. And I do want him to be more consistent, etc. I do want him to be more involved. I do want Ollie to find a more consistent place for him as our team develops. If we can get a defensive midfielder, a proper one, then we can start playing him more central more often. I want all of those things to happen. But it would be nice if he could stay without having to kind of only be the reason he's staying, that he couldn't get the move because of the money. That's not nice. I would prefer it to actually be that whole, I really want to stay here because it's this, we're kicking on, we're challenging to win the league, we're in the Champions League. We were unlucky last year in the semi-final of the Champions League, but we go again. I want it to be for those reasons. And he can see actually better players coming as well, which maybe that might happen. But as it feels, I can't see it. So yeah. Anyway, guys, we will wrap it up there. Thanks for watching. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new as well. And we'll see you very, very soon.